What's anime? Uh, Not so top of the morning. I was gonna say top of the morning, but it's not that. I just got off a good call, good conversation, uh, and I already had a topic, but it actually added to that topic. Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio did the most recent episode was on Theurgy. PD Newman, uh, very knowledgeable guy. I think I'm gonna check him out. You should too if you're on a similar path. Not pushing books or anything necessarily, but if you read, maybe check it out. I'm gonna look into interviews because I like Cliff's Notes. Essentially, I like Cliff's Notes, and there are very specific things that I anyway. So theurgy, work of the gods, God's work. I believe that very specifically ties into my research and my path. Um, Recently, I did videos on Duat and how I believe we are in Duat. Uh, I also believe it has been jacked, um, and another program has been kind of laid over it. In terms of simulation speak. Um, by that I mean we had our own simulation to by means of alchemy sharpen and grow ourselves as divine beings, as those that weigh 21 grams and have the spark, the breath of life. And something came here and invaded that and forcibly applied its own program, you know, over the top of ours, for lack of better terminology. Um, but that doesn't supersede anything, you know. Think of it like Duat, our program, our simulation being the operating system, and uh, its simulation being an app, though a very strong app, a very substantial app, an app nonetheless. And what that means is that you can still accomplish your opus. You can still accomplish your great work. Um, in a way, it's making it more difficult and more traumatic. Maybe even take longer, but nonetheless, you can still accomplish probably more than what was going to be accomplished potentially in less time. Who knows? What is time? You know. Um, but I say that to say, this being this being a school, as some of y'all like to call it. I don't agree with that terminology. Similar maybe, but the fact that this other program has been installed to the operating system, that takes away the concept of it being a school. In order for you to be in school, you have to retain information. You have to be actually learning and retaining. The fact that very likely there's memory wiping going on, and that's something where you have to use discernment. I'm not going to try to provide proof to you or anything like that. You either know what we mean when we say that or you don't. And it's not something where I feel like you should argue over that or try to push someone else to understand or believe it. You know or you don't. Some of us have a feeling. Some of us have a lot of things that others seem to just be kind of interested in. And I've noticed a lot of arguing over these topics and discussions, and it's not worth it to me to argue. I don't need you to believe me. And you don't need me to believe you, though you feel as though you do. Um, anyway, the concept of a school doesn't make sense to me because we don't retain the information. We may retain it on some kind of soul level or subconscious, metaphysically subconscious level. Um, but that's still not school. School, you progress, you add to, you stack up that experience and that knowledge. That's not what this is. We're war has been declared on us, and that's very different from school. It's no longer a simulator when you are in a real situation. And one could argue that maybe that is a part of the simulator, to feel as though it's real, past the level that we may be used to. That may be true, but that doesn't change my opinion of it. That becomes paradoxical, to be honest. So I don't see the point in discussing or arguing that either. For all intents and purposes, war has been declared, and many of us are coming to terms with that. Many of us are opening our eye to that. And so while this is still the operating system, where in that you are sharpening yourself and progressing and growing as a divine being, you're also, you're ducking very real things that have very real potential, outcomes and consequences. Memory wipes and soul contracts and all these things that many influencers have become rich off of and talk about video after video. I don't think that that's natural in the way that it's being perpetuated. I don't like the idea of soul contracts. I am a sovereign being, and I intend to stay that way. I've had some that have attempted to force me into, soul contracts and things of that nature. I've had some try to imply that I have soul contracts that I'm not aware of and things of that nature. That doesn't, from what I feel inside, even if I were to have agreed to some kind of, quote, soul contract in the past, it's nullified because I don't remember. If I remembered, then maybe that would make sense. You can't hold someone to a contract and then watch their memory, or you erase their memory, and then expect them to stick to said contract. That makes zero sense. I do not acknowledge that. In any sense, it seems to me that, this is a very specific thing that we're going through. When you look through the texts, when you look through the accounts of both, quote, fiction and nonfiction, of beings like ourselves going through these types of things, it never looks like this. It doesn't look like what we're going through now. And you could say that's interpretation, and it is, but it's my interpretation. I don't, that's just how I view it, how I see it, how I've experienced it. To me, the reality that it's been weighed down, that it's been added to, it will only sharpen me more and make me more prepared for what is to come. But that doesn't mean that it has to be like I'm a pushover and I'm just allowing these things and only looking at it from a positive and all this stuff that I see kind of perpetuated. You are a divine. What sense does it make to be a divine being but be locked into only having positive, positive interpretations of, what's happening to you, and only viewing things as oh, okay, well, that does hurt, but I guess it's okay. No, man. Balance. It's balance. You can understand what's happening to you fully and know that it is not right or that it is not okay, but you can retain your divine sense and say, I'm not going to say I hate everyone or I hate everything or everything needs to burn or everything needs to die, but to you or to those that have inflicted this upon me, I spit at your feet. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's in my opinion the correct response to that. What depiction of divine beings or deities or gods or terrestrials or whatever you want to call them, what depictions of them are pushovers or just positive only to the detriment of self? So then why is it being perpetuated through a very specific group of circles that love and light is the only way, and that anything else should be rejected? It's the same concept as turning the other cheek. It's the same concept as bend the knee and cover the eyes of the hands in prayer. You know, if you're familiar with the other chakras, not the ones that everyone talks about, you're covering senses of yourself. You're covering things that give you sight when you do those actions. So I'm not willing to do that, and it doesn't make me a bad person, and no one can tell me that it makes me a bad person. I'm going to stand in that, and I would hope that others within my family can also stand in that. There are many being like targeted in ways that are very confusing to them, and things happen that feel almost metaphysical, and it can really, really bind you to this reality, to this place, and to these beings that are surrounding you. And I think that's the point. I think that's why those things are being done. And I think it's very difficult to try to balance that. And me included. But ever since I noticed that, I've been using alchemy to the best of my ability to transmute that into what it needs to be versus what's being pushed at me. So, balance again, and not just balance, but the ability to make a decision in the moment versus very hard-nosedly sticking to the plan, to me is very important. To be fluid, to be like water, as a master once said. I think that's very, very important. And the fact that master it doesn't look like me doesn't matter. Before that is said in the comments, I don't like supremacy, so keep that to yourself, please. I think that some of us, including myself, sometimes can get bogged down by or confused by the fact that this is a jacked simulation. It's no longer the simulation that it started off as, from my findings, from my research. But that doesn't matter. You can adapt. You can adapt and keep doing the same work that is the originating intention of the operating system. just look at it as expert mode or God mode. It's God mode. um, you know, the things that are being inflicted on you, the hardships, even the good stuff, the things that are so good that it makes you not want to pay attention to your surroundings, or, everything's going good for me, so all this stuff about alchemy and sharpening the self and all that stuff, I don't really need that. I'm good. Those are pitfalls. Those are specifically to keep you in the same place. And I'm not trying to say that if you're having a good experience to like dumb it down or to like be sad, purposefully. I'm just saying that it's very likely that it's of the same program. It's of the same app. It knows you well. It knows you well. It knew you well before all of this stuff, before all of the social media stuff, but now you're feeding it. You're feeding it information about yourself. So, is it good? Do you have it very, very good right now? And again, philosophy, man. Some of you take the words that I say too literal. I'm not trying to make anyone sad. I'm not trying to make anyone denounce their wealth or their fame or their anything. I'm just giving you some philosophical things to think about, and from my perspective, they're important things that can help. Because many look at physical wealth or beauty or capability as some kind of signifier of your position, and that is to me a sand trap. If you're completely happy with that, then good for you. I'm not talking to those beings. I'm talking to the ones that maybe still feel empty with their wealth, or still feel that they have some sort of mission or something pulling at them that has little to do with their wealth, or maybe they were given that wealth to do their mission or have their adventure, their journey. And I'm not focusing on just the positive. I'm putting a little bit of extra on it because I think a lot of the time there are beings that focus on the ones that are having a negative experience because it's much easier to manipulate them, and they're much more malleable. They're looking for hope. They're looking for help. They have a need and a yearning for meaning, and that's, while I see how that can be applied, I think it's disingenuous and manipulative. It's both. It can be both, and it can be the middle too. You may just be fine with your life. You're not well off. You're not doing bad. It doesn't matter what you have or what you view yourself to be in this place. It more matters what you feel and what you feel pulling you. And if you don't feel anything pulling you, then, like I said, good. It's very taxing. So I'm not saying that you need to search for it. If you don't feel it, maybe it's not this go round. The conversation I had earlier, it was brought up. He has a theory that we're spread out this way. And when I say we, I mean like our family, our real family, our true family, divine, deities, whatever you want to view it as. maybe we're spread out in this way to be beacons to lead. And I struggled with that because I don't like I don't like the idea. I don't want to be a leader, dude. I'm not speaking to be a leader uh, or a teacher. And I know I've said recently, oh, I should stop saying that. And you know, this is duality, I guess, because I still feel that way. I'm just speaking so that you some of you don't feel alone, or some of you don't think that you're crazy like you're being told, or so that some of you have a spark to open your eye and begin realizing what you're feeling, or who you're feeling. um that's it. And to find my family. um I didn't push back because I what he said made a lot of sense. I'm not saying that he's wrong. In fact, like I said, what he said made a whole gang of sense. I just personally, it makes me uncomfortable because I don't know why. I won't even say because. I don't know why. It just makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it's some modesty programming indoctrination stuff. Um Hubris. I don't know. Some maybe it's some kind of like aversion to a thing that I view as having negative connotation. Um, but that may be something that I need to work on because being a leader doesn't necessarily make you bad. I've just seen a lot of bad representations of leaders. I've been beat over the head with the idea that power corrupts absolutely, and I don't believe that. I think that that's a part of why we're here, so that we can not be that. That doesn't have to be paradoxical. It's just being pushed that it's paradoxical. There are people, there are beings that are capable of being good leaders. We just see what has been given as examples of leadership and we're disgusted. So, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable. Uh, and it's not a reality right now, so it's not something that I really even have to weigh out like that. But uh, it was an interesting thought. You know, what if you have been isolated and treated the way that you've been treated to sharpen you to be a leader on a larger scale than you think? Like, what if that's the case? Interesting to think about. Makes me uncomfortable, to be honest. I'll put my 2 cents in. Makes me uncomfortable. Uh, but even then, within that conversation, I say same thing I said to him. I'll say here. I think that this place can do things. Just like I say that it communicates, I think that it can do things, and I think that it would if that were the case, if his assertion and theory were the case, then it would stand to reason that it would set things up in a way where you're within this group or around these beings, and the current leadership that is not you makes you again disgusted in the way that it's being you know done, and you feel a responsibility to do better than what they're doing. That's what I think what would end up happening, and it would be a sense of like responsibility and duty and obligation to those that you love or cherish or are indebted to for having your back in such chaotic times as what's to potentially come, you know? So whether it makes me uncomfortable or not, that's something that I'm considering as a potentiality. Um, I would rather be able to skip over a good bit of that, a good bit of all of it, not just that small part, but the part that would make that a reality. You know, I'd rather just skip to everyone getting their fucking abilities back and being able to do whatever we want and build whatever we want, be wherever we want, love whoever we want, so on and so forth. But very much seems like we have to go through stuff, right? Doesn't it seem that way? For those that are law of attractionists and what are the other ones? It doesn't matter. Those that push these kind of new agey, you have all control type ideologies and philosophies. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's just to make money, wealth, which it does work well for that. But you're using a manipulation of those beings' already installed power, their already installed programming. They don't even know it. You won't even tell them. You're just using a small portion of their own shit to bring them shit and charging them for it like a piece of shit, you know? Um, but I say digression. I say that to say I don't think that we just have control over all of this as many try to say. You know, they try to say we control all this, we just don't know it, so it's not working right. I don't think that even if all of us just snap to and tried to will this to stop, I don't think that's how this works, because the operating system that we made is still there, and the memory is still gone. Maybe if we all came together, memory would come back potentially. That'd be cool, but I don't see that currently. So I'm not even gonna like create that that pipe dream, you know. Um, so yeah, I just don't see that as a truth that we can all just make this 180 into a 100% positive situation. Though there are many, kind of platforms, many uh, influencer types, love and light types, left hand path types that would love to push that. You know, I disagree. I don't think that's the case. Um, I'm gray. You know, I'm gray. Balance. You need both. Choosing a path in that sense is a degradation to the self. You're turning your back on a whole aspect of you when you do that. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just had some thoughts. Do I have more thoughts? I don't know. I'll always have more thoughts, but I think I'll cut that for here. Okay, I love you. Bye.